Hi everyone, we are excited to have you here in today's fun-filled learning session at Uolo. Here is a quick look at how you can submit your work after the class. As a first step, go to live.uolo.com. You can use any browser to access this site. On this page, you will see a list of all our classes. Scroll down and you can see the Submit Your Work button. And then you will see a list of the classes that you've last attended, which could, for example, show the dance or craft or science experiment classes you've attended recently. Next, it will show you the list of children whose names are registered in this mobile number. Choose your name from this list to submit your work. For instance, if you are Satvik Kumar, choose that name. And then choose the class for which you would like to make your submission. For example, if you've attended the New Year's Masquerade Party session and you'd like to make the submission for this class, click on the Submit Your Work button below that. And then upload the photo you've taken. Choose the image from your phone and click Submit. You can scroll down and view all your past submissions and see how many of your friends or peers have liked your work. You can also see others' work and like their work to inspire your friends. If you want to showcase your work on social media, that too is very simple. Click on Share, copy the link and post it on Instagram or Facebook or any other platform of your choice. Just a tiny reminder, your submission looks a lot better if you could click a photo in the landscape mode rather than the portrait mode. Do not forget to tag us at YOLO_app. I'm eagerly looking forward to all your submissions right after this class.
Guys, hello everybody. So I hope you have followed the submission process. We just shared that process with you about how to make your submissions. That's one of the most crucial steps that you need to take care of after every class completes. And yeah, so I hope you have followed that. And we are here for yet another class today. So just before we get started, I hope all of you are doing extremely well and having a nice day and looking forward to a nice day as well. As I said, we are here for yet another class today, a new class today, and we are into the watercolor course, watercolor botanicals course. So I couldn't just realize that we have reached to class 3. So this is precisely the class 3 of our course, and we have already reached a lot. We have learned a lot about watercolors already. We have learned a lot about the brush strokes as well. So as you all know, every step, every class would be a step ahead. So with every class, we progress towards our watercolor journey. We take a step towards our watercolor learning, understanding brush strokes and everything. So this class is also going to be a step ahead, and I hope all of you all enjoy this class, and I see a lot of you all joining in, but I see all of you all just staying normal. So I want you all to quickly give me a nice, bright, beautiful smile. Okay, I need all of you all to give me a big smile before we just get started, because I see all the dull faces now. I want you all talented bunch of people to quickly give me a smile. Come on, quickly. Yes, I want to see all the smiling faces. Each and every person attending this class, quickly give me a smile. I want to see a bright, beautiful smile, because you're so talented that it's always good for you to stay smiling. Okay. So with that beautiful, bright smile with all your faces, we are all set to get started with the class. Worry about the art materials. You all know that I discussed the art materials in detail, so don't worry about that. And yes, so everybody who's joining in now, quickly give me a thumbs up that you're ready. So as in when you're joining, quickly give me a thumbs up that you're ready with your art materials and you're as excited as I am for today's class. So quickly give me a thumbs up now. Quickly give me a thumbs up in the chat section so that I get an indication that you all are ready with your art materials and you just want the class to get started. Yes? Okay, quickly. Come on, in the chat section, I need the thumbs up coming in. Okay, so many thumbs up coming in. Awesome. So I'm just sharing the screen. Give me a moment. Okay, yes, here it is. Okay, so I hope you all can see the screen and I can see all your smiling faces and your thumbs up that you are ready with your art materials and you just want to get started with today's class. So let us all dive into today's fun activity and learn something new. Okay, so first things first, we'll discuss the art materials. So number one, I have an A5 size white sheet over here. In case you're having an A4 size white sheet, you all know you can just cut it into half and you'll have an A5 size white sheet. In case you want to use your A4 size white sheet, you can just continue and use those white sheets as well. In case you're not having a white sheet of paper, you know, you can use any other color paper you have that's available at your place. In case you're not having these, I am sure you must be having a notebook. You can just go grab a page out of it and you can also use that. Okay, so just a page that we need because we'll be, of course, creating something. So we need a base material. So that's a page. I'm not being typical that you need to have a white sheet, but you can also use a page from a notebook in case you're not having a white sheet. Okay. So that's the first material, a white sheet, an A5 size. If you're not having A5 size, it's smaller than that, that's fine as well. But minimum requirement would be of this A5 size as far as possible. And if you're having an A4 size, you can either cut it into half and use the other half. And if you just want to use A4, you can just go ahead and use A4 size. So that's the first material. Second, we need a paintbrush. Of course, since it's a watercolor course, we need a round brush. So make sure you're having a round brush for this course, for this particular class, because the brush strokes would be possible only with the help of a round brush. The size of the round brush that I am using over here is size 3. But in case you're having a number of brush or a larger number of this round brush, again, it's totally fine. As far as it is a round brush, everything would be workable, everything would be fine for the class, but avoid using the flat brushes because that would not be easy to work with for the brush strokes. Okay, so a round brush, any number, any size would be fine. The one I am using over here is in size 3. So that's a paint brush, a round brush. Next, we need a water container. Of course, another crucial, essential material or something that we require is a water container because we need to activate the paints. So we need water for cleaning the brushes and activating our watercolor paints. Okay, so that's the next material we need. That's a water container. So I have a glass filled with water for activating the paints and for cleaning the brushes. Okay, so that's the third material. Fourth, we need these watercolors. So again, I'm going to use this set of watercolors. These are from Camlin and these are watercolor cakes. So what are watercolor cakes? When they are into smaller cubical portions and they are solid. Okay, they are solid and they get activated only when added with water. So these are watercolor cakes which get activated upon adding water to them. So I'm going to use these watercolors. Any brand of watercolors would be fine. Also, you need not have too many shades. We just need basic, simple shades over here. I'll quickly give you few choices of shades if you want me to. You can have a red watercolor, yellow watercolor, orange watercolor, and a shade of green. So you just need three basically. Two should be any choice of your colors and one should be typically green. We need to have green. So make sure you have at least three watercolors with you. I am going to use red, yellow, and green. You can either use pink, yellow, and green. You can use blue, orange, and green. So any two colors of your choice that you want to make, and one should be green. So we need three watercolor paints over here. You need not have too many shades, just basic simple shades are what we need in today's class. Okay, so I've already given you a good list of materials with the substitutes as well. So there's no chance that you could miss this class, and in case you're not having these exact materials, you can just observe the techniques for the first time, and when the materials are available with you, you can just get started with the class. Okay, so don't worry if you're not having the materials right in front of you with you. You can still observe it. You can learn by observing, and then when you have the materials available at your place, you can draw it for yourself. You can create it for yourself. Okay, so that's all that we need for today's class. And it's time to just get started with the fun activity. It's time to dive into the fun activity now. And as we follow this typical procedure in every step, we are all going to observe first. Okay, so I want all of you, everybody attending the class for the first time, I want all of you all to have your eyes on the screen. And then when I repeat the process, you can just create it along with me. But just for the first time, you all know how crucial, how essential this step is when you observe. Okay, this is something new. I want all of you all to first observe on the screen. Keep your materials down. Do not focus on your materials as of now. Just focus on your screen. Just look at your screens and see what I do. Okay, so let us get started. I hope everybody is observing. Everybody is having their eyes on screen. Okay. So we start by taking our paintbrush first. Of course, we'll take the paintbrush and we'll activate. We'll add water to red watercolor paint. So I'm just going to add water to the red watercolor paint. It's actually not red, it's crimson that I'm using. It is a shade, or it is a blend of red and pink. So this is what I'm doing. I'm adding water to this crimson shade. So crimson is pretty close to red color, but it has a tinge of pink in it. So this color that I'm using is called crimson. You can use red, you can use orange, you can use blue. Don't worry about the color, just first observe the technique. Okay, so I'm activating the color, and once done, I take good amount of paint onto my brush, and then I start from one corner. I start from the bottom left corner. I hope you can see. I'm going to start with the bottom left corner. I'm starting from the bottom left corner. Just with the help of the brush, I first create a tiny kind of a stroke, which is like a alphabet C. Did you spot that? Just a tiny little stroke, just a tiny curve or a semicircle or an alphabet C. And now I would create another curve, but below it. So carefully observe the second curve. That's an inverted C that I've drawn. So first I created a curve, a semicircle or a capital alphabet C, a tiny one. Then an inverted C, but a little below it. Okay, and these are not overlapping each other as well. So this particular stroke, this tiny stroke that we have created is called as a C stroke. Okay, I repeat, it is called as a C stroke. C, capital alphabet C, that's a C stroke. And now we are just going to create some C strokes around it. Okay, so look at this particular inner C curves, the two C curves, the tiny ones. These are the two tiny ones. and the one which is surrounding it is slightly bigger. Okay, so I'll quickly take you back. So that's another C stroke. And when we move to the larger C stroke, look how I place the brush. I start from the pointed edge of the brush. I place it and then I lift it. These need not be typically perfect in shape like a C, but somewhat like a curve. And that's around the inner portion, the inner curve. And now we follow the same process and we create some more C strokes around it. Okay, so again, I'm repeating, these are C strokes, the tiny strokes of curved line that we are creating with the brushes. This is called as a C stroke. That's the second C stroke, one below it, and then another next to it as well. We just keep making these C strokes in such a way that there's no overlapping, not much of overlapping. There's good amount of wide gap in between as well. So it's already looking somewhat like a rose to us. We'll just go ahead and we'll add a little more of these C strokes to make it huge. So as in when we add more layers of C strokes, the flower will appear to get larger. Okay. And we just get started by giving these C strokes around it. Okay. If you feel there's less amount of paint on your brushes, don't worry, just go ahead, take more paint on the brushes and just go ahead with the C strokes. So did you see how I'm drawing so many of C strokes around it, but very less of them are overlapping each other. Okay. So just adding, do not make it too large. Make sure that you're not making it too large. Okay. That was our first rose. And now this particular technique we are going to follow for making a lot many roses around this sheet of paper. So again, I'm repeating this step especially for you because now I think you must be observing the process. So it's now time to repeat it. So let's start from here. You all can just get started with activating the paint. Okay, so first step is to add water to your choice of shade, the choice of color that you have made. I'm using a crimson shade over here. If you like, you can use red, you can also use orange, you can also use blue if you want. Okay, so that's the shades are onto you. We are just predominantly here to learn about the techniques. Okay, so let's focus on the technique first. So make sure you have good amount of paint onto your brushes. Note number one is to have paint on the brush, good amount of paint on the brush. Then start from one corner. I'm starting from the left corner, zooming in on the view, and then start by giving one tiny C stroke. Start by giving a tiny stroke, make a tiny C, a capital alphabet C, a tiny one. Okay, so here's a quick recap for you. I hope you all are able to make this tiny C stroke. Now follow the same C stroke on the opposite side. That's another C stroke. There were two C strokes, the center portion of the rose that we are making. And now the similar C stroke, we are going to make few C strokes around this particular portion. Consider this to be the center of your flower. And now just go ahead and keep adding more C strokes around it. Okay. So that's the first C stroke that I draw around it. Okay. So that's the first C stroke that I make. Then I make another on the opposite side, one below it, on the sides. Just a point to note over here is not much of these C strokes should overlap each other. Okay, so there should be good amount of white gap in between, and there should be no overlapping. Also, if you're finding that your paint on the brush is getting dried up too quickly, just go ahead and take more paint on the brushes. So you can just go ahead and add a little bit of more water to your paints and take more amount of color onto your brushes. Okay. So look how I keep creating these strokes and end up making a rose. Okay. So the technique that we're using over here is the C-stroke technique. So then technical terms, these are called as C-stroke. So just by tiny strokes of curved lines, we end up creating a rose. Okay. So now typically the same process. I mean, exactly the same process to be precise. We are going to use to create more roses. So all of y'all now can create along with me. That's the first rose that we have already created. Now we're just going to create another rose above it. We're going to make a frame of roses. So just about this rose, leave a little bit of gap. Leave a little bit of gap about this rose. Just maybe for your reference, you can leave a space around 3 fingers. You can leave this space, keep 3 fingers down, leave that space, and you can start creating above it. Okay. Exactly the similar process now. So look how I'm leaving a little bit of space at this particular portion and I'm creating it above it now. Okay, so let's start. The similar technique again, starting with C strokes. So one tiny C, another one in the opposite direction, and then we start creating these C strokes around it. Okay, adding C strokes, make sure that they are not overlapping each other too much. So the white gap between these C strokes is essential to actually make it look like a rose. If you just end up overlapping these C strokes, it would not look like a rose flower. Okay, and do not make it too large. Do not make it too large. Okay. So look how I've added a little bit of gap in between these two roses, because there we'll try making a rose with another color. The same technique, but just another color. So I'm just going to leave a little bit of more gap now and create another rose with this crimson shade only. So I basically fit 3 roses, the 3 crimson roses. I'll call it as red roses only. I'm starting with the top portion now. So I start by creating one C stroke, a tiny C stroke. Then in the opposite direction, then some more C strokes around it. So if you're not able to follow the technique, this could be a good repeat for you again. So you all can just observe and then create it for yourself, because the same technique is going to be repeated now, because we are going to follow the same technique to create these roses. So if at all you find that you're not able to create these, just for a moment, you all can keep your paints and brushes down and you can observe it on the screen and then create it for yourself. Okay. So we have created 3 of these roses on one side now. It's time to move to the other side. And now in perfect alignment of these 3 roses, just on the opposite side, we're going to create 3 roses. Since these are the 3 roses on the left side, consider them to be on the left side. We're going to create 3 roses on the right side in the exact alignment. Okay. So in the exact alignment now, starting from the top, I'm going to create. And again, this is for everybody who is still not able to, catch up this technique. You all can again observe it on your screens and then create it for yourself. Okay. So also just know that just for the first time, you may not be perfect at it. It requires a little bit of practice, a little bit of hand controls about when you're when you are actually pressurizing on the paper, when you're pressurizing the brush, when are you lifting it up. So these are tiny little things which will take time, which will take practice, but it's good to get started. Okay, so this could be a possible start for you. So make sure you're taking it slow, you're taking it easy. Okay. So again, a quick reminder, in case you have not followed it up till now, you can all observe it on the screen and then just get started with yours. Okay. So we create another rose in the perfect alignment on the opposite side. We start with one tiny C stroke. We're going to start with one tiny C stroke. So this particular tiny pattern, the curved line that we have created, is called as a C stroke. We call it as a C stroke. Then on the opposite side as well. And now some larger C strokes around it. So I've drawn the center portion. Consider the two tiny C strokes as the center portion. And now just keep adding some C strokes around it. But do not overlap them much. Make sure there's good amount of white spaces in between. And make sure that you have good amount of paint on your brushes as well. Okay. So as I said that watercolors tend to dry a little quick. This is something that I've been repeating in the previous class as well. So it's okay to keep adding water to your paints and taking more paint on your brushes. Okay, so just added some C strokes now. Just look at this particular flower now. So just by creating some C strokes, we end up creating a rose. So now again, the similar technique and creating two crimson roses, two red roses. And as we discussed, we are going to create them in perfect alignments. Okay. So again, I start with the tiny C strokes and then I just go ahead and add some more C strokes around it. Also, again, a reminder that you need to leave some white spaces in between because that would create an illusion of the layers of the flower. Okay. If you just end up overlapping all of these, you may not get the result. This white space in between is also essential. Okay. All right, so on to the next last rose. So last rose in red shade now. So I hope you all are also creating it in perfect alignments only. Okay, there we go. Almost there, just creating these roses with the help of C strokes. Again, you need not worry if you're not getting these results at the first attempt. But the best thing is to get started and try out different things. Okay, so it's fine if you're not getting these exact same results. With a little bit of practice over time, you will get this technique as well. Okay. All right. I've created these 6 red roses now already. Now I'm just going to go ahead and fill up yellow roses. I'm going to create yellow roses in between the gaps of these red roses. The techniques will be exactly the same. I'm going to follow a series of these strokes only, but this time with the help of a yellow color. Okay, I'm using a yellow paint. In case you're not having yellow, you can use orange or you can use blue, but avoid using green because we'll be creating those leaves with greens. Avoid using green for that. But you can use any choice of colors that you want. Okay, I'm going to use yellow. So I'm again going to clean the brushes. So this is again a recap of yet another essential technique in watercolors to clean your brushes nicely. So make sure you're getting rid of all the red color or whatever color you're using before you use the next color. Okay, so since I'm going to use a different color now, I'm going to use a yellow paint now. I'm going to quickly clean the brush so nicely that there's no amount of crimson left onto my brush, because then if it's left, the crimson will end up mixing with the yellow color, and that's not what we need. Okay, so this is yet another thing to be followed in watercolors, that we need to clean our brushes nice and well before we change to the next shade or a different shade. Okay, so make sure you are all cleaning your brushes nicely, getting rid of the previous color, and then you can activate your next paint. Okay, so the next paint, as I said, I'm going to use a yellow shade now. I'm quickly activating this yellow, adding water to the yellow paint. Okay, taking good amount of yellow paints onto the brush. And this is also another thing that you know, that the watercolors tend to dry up really quick. So it's fine if you just end up adding a little bit of more water to your paint. That's fine again, because watercolors, if you're using cakes, they tend to dry up really fast. So it's fine if you keep adding water, a little bit of water as and when required. Okay. And make sure that you have good amount of paint onto the brush. Now, consider the gaps in between these red roses. Okay, so the gaps that we have in between these red roses, we are going to go ahead and create these yellow roses now. And we start from one side, or let's start from the center bottom portion. I create 2 C strokes and then the largest C strokes around it. So I'm creating a yellow rose over here, taking paint onto the brush as and when necessary. I'm also adding water to the paint as and when necessary. So this is again exactly the similar technique, just looks a little different to you because the shade is changed now, the color is changed. So now, between the red roses, as I said, I'm going to go ahead and create these yellow roses. If at all, up till now, you have not followed the technique, this could again be a repeat for you. So make sure you have your eyes on the screen if you have still not catch up this particular technique. So all eyes on screen if you have not followed this technique up till now. So first, we just take a good amount of paint onto the brush. We start from a C stroke. We create a tiny C and we create another C in the opposite direction. We create 2 strokes, just one above the other, but not overlapping. And then we create larger C strokes around it. And as you can see, we do not overlap these C strokes. Okay, guys, so I'm creating this yellow roses in between the red roses, and I'm making in such a way that it fits into that gap. Okay, you need not overlap the yellow rose onto the red rose or make it untidy. So make sure that if the gap is tiny, you make tiny roses only. Okay. I hope up till now I've just repeated it a number of times, and if you still haven't followed it, it's again nothing to worry about because I'm following the same technique. Time and again, I'm following the same technique. So if you feel that you are still not able to catch up, you can just observe it on the screen. But now, for everybody who has just followed it and grasped that technique already, you can just go ahead and give these roses between the red roses, or whatever color of roses that you have drawn. It's time to add roses of the second color now. Okay. So we're creating a frame of roses over here. So we're just going to give a border of roses, something that looks like a border of roses, but it's a frame of roses that we are creating. So I'm just creating these roses which fit into that gap of red roses. Okay, now onto the last two yellow roses. And as I keep repeating this step again, make sure that your palm is not resting onto the paper anywhere where there's paint, because if that palm rests onto the paint which is wet, you'll have paint on your palms as well. And then when you place your palm on different parts of the paper, you will start creating those impressions, and then there will be paint stains all over the paper. Okay, so make sure you're not having those stains on the palm, and you can just rotate your sheet whenever you want to rotate and then start creating. So look over here, I've just rotated the sheet so that my palm is onto the table and not onto the paper. And it's always good to have neat and tidy artworks, right? So we're just going to follow that same over here. I'm creating these roses with the help of C strokes now. Okay. So I'm on to the second last now. So make sure that you're not creating anything in the center, because this is a frame of roses that you're trying to create. On to the last one now. Okay, just adding a little bit of water to the paint. Just gonna go ahead and create the last rose over here. And you need not hurry or rush the process. And you can just continue where you are. It's not necessary that since I'm onto the last rose, you also need to complete it harshly. You can be slow, gentle with your process. You can complete the artwork even after this class ends. Okay. All right. So now we have just completed this border or the margin, which is full of roses. And now I see a little bit of gap left somewhere in between. What I'll do now is I'll just go ahead and add some leaves in between. If you feel that you don't have this gap, or you just want to avoid giving those leaves, you can skip the process. But if you want to add these leaves, you can just carry out this process. Drawing leaves or creating leaves with the help of brushes is something that we have learned in the first class itself when we painted daisies. Yes, I hope you remember that, but in case you can't recollect, we are going to create it now. So make sure that you get rid of the paints onto the brush, because now again, we are going to move to the next new color, okay? I'm keeping the brush nice and well so that I get rid of the yellow color. Then I activate the green paint, the green watercolor. Taking the amount of paint onto the brush also. Then I'll start with creating the leaves. Okay, so just in between these flowers, start by creating some leaves in between the flowers, and I will create a leaf and a tiny stem to it as well. So if you're not aware about this stroke, quickly repeating it for you, we place the pointed edge of the brush onto the paper, and then press the entire brush onto the paper, and then we lift it up smoothly. Okay, so here's a quick recap for you. We place the pointed part of the brush onto the paper, place the entire brush onto the paper smoothly, and then lift it up. Okay, I hope you can remember this technique now. And if you're facing it difficult to create leaves with the help of these strokes, you can simply just draw two curved lines. Okay, so I'm just randomly adding these C strokes. There's no particular way of, locating them. So just randomly, where you feel there's too much of gap, you can just go ahead and add few leaves. Okay, so just adding few here and there. Just randomly adding these leaves. Okay. tiny leaves only, not too giant ones. And also keep rotating your sheets so that you don't have any paint stains onto your palm. If you want me to repeat the stroke for leaf, here it is for you. We place the tip of the brush onto the paper, then we gradually place the entire brush onto the paper, and then we lift it smoothly to make the stem of the leaf. Okay. And as I said, if you're finding it difficult to create leaves in this way, you can just go ahead and you can create two curves just for a leaf shape. I've just randomly added these leaf shapes. Randomly just having few leaves around in between the gaps. Okay. I have just created this beautiful frame of roses. I'll just get this brush cleaned. We have just reached the end of this particular class. We have created this artwork. In case you haven't completed it up till now, it's fine. It's totally fine. You can complete it after this class ends. You can continue your job even if this class ends. What you can do now, I'm just going to give you an idea about what you can do next with this particular artwork. In the center portion, if you see the center portion is blank, what you can do is take a good photograph or a family photograph or your photograph or any photograph that you like. You can just paste it in the center portion and then stick this entire thing onto a cardboard if you want, and you'll have a beautiful frame ready for you. Okay, so again, repeating it for you, you can just take a beautiful photograph, anything that you like, paste it at the center portion. Okay, since the center portion is left blank, it is intentionally left blank. A frame of roses. So you can just stick something in between, paste this entire thing on a cardboard, and then you can just use it as a photo frame. Okay, so we have created a beautiful frame of roses. Again, repeating, the center part could be used for sticking a photograph, and here it is. So just by creating these simple C strokes, we ended up making a beautiful rose, and then we followed the same step, exactly the same step, to create an entire frame of roses. Okay, so I hope that you all enjoyed creating this with me, and this was yet another step towards our watercolor learnings and our brush strokes. So I hope all of you are going to make your submissions right on time. So each and everybody who's attending this class, make sure that you're making your submissions. I personally evaluate all your submissions and I know who's consistently making your submissions. Okay, so I want all of y'all to make your submissions. I'm eagerly waiting to see your masterpieces, and I'll see you in the next class with yet another technique. So make sure that you don't miss on to those. And yes, so take care and please enjoy all the classes on Uolo. I'll see you super soon in the next class. Okay, bye-bye.
Hi everyone, we are excited to have you here in today's fun-filled learning session at Uolo. Here is a quick look at how you can submit your work after the class. As a first step, go to live.uolo.com. You can use any browser to access this site. On this page, you will see a list of all our classes. Scroll down and you can see the Submit Your Work button. And then you will see a list of the classes that you've last attended, which could, for example, show the dance or craft or science experiment classes you've attended recently. Next, it will show you the list of children whose names are registered in this mobile number. Choose your name from this list to submit your work. For instance, if you are Satvik Kumar, choose that name. And then choose the class for which you would like to make your submission. For example, if you've attended the New Year's Masquerade Party session and you'd like to make the submission for this class, click on the Submit Your Work button below that and then upload the photo you've taken. Choose the image from your phone and click Submit. You can scroll down and view all your past submissions and see how many of your friends or peers have liked your work. You can also see others' work and like their work to inspire your friends. If you want to showcase your work on social media, that too is very simple. Click on Share, copy the link and post it on Instagram or Facebook or any other platform of your choice. Just a tiny reminder, your submission looks a lot better if you could click a photo in the landscape mode rather than the portrait mode. Do not forget to tag us at Uolo_app. I'm eagerly looking forward to all your submissions right after this class.